American accounts of the controversy surrounding the M4 Sherman emerged in December 1944 around the problems encountered in the Battle of the Bulge. What is usually forgotten is the state of the British Army in May 1940, when the Expeditionary Force returned with 13 of the 500 tanks that were landed in France. With the vast majority of the Army's military hardware in enemy hands, the precarious position of the nation was apparent as the German army prepared its invasion. Britain could only muster one complete tank regiment. It was on the 11th of March 1941 that President Roosevelt signed the Lend-Lease bill into law, allowing the US to supply tanks and other material, and in early 1942 the first Sherman tanks rolled off the production lines. The tank transporter, such as that in the film seen unloading at the King George V graving dock in the Western or New Docks at Southampton, were specially designed to handle heavier loads than the standard Liberty ship, and crewed by the US Armed Forces rather than by merchantmen. The weight and dimensions of equipment constitute important design considerations often forgotten for an army fighting a war from its own shores. By design, the Sherman conformed to the dimensions and weight limitations of temporary bridging equipment issued to Army engineering units. The Sherman also conformed to the width of flatbed railway wagons needed to haul tanks to and from ports of embarkation. Once there, 20 Shermans neatly fitted on the 288-foot-long tank deck of an LST landing ship tank. As US tank design turned towards new suspension systems featuring wider tracks, they exceeded the limitations of both bridges and rail cars, so that the outer set of road wheels had to be removed to facilitate rail shipment, with the capacity of the tank deck of an LST lowered accordingly. Army regulations that set a limitation of 124 inches on vehicle width and 35 tons on gross weight were simple yet key factors in gaining approval for production of US tanks. The Sherman's first test came at the Battle of El Alamein in October 1942. 3 British regiments with 150 Shermans made their debut alongside British tanks in one of the war's most important battles. The Sherman proved reliable and comfortable for its crews, unlike the mechanically unreliable and cramped Crusader tank. It was the general advance from Normandy when the Sherman demonstrated its best qualities as tank columns accompanied dawn to dusk by formations of Republic P-47 Thunderbolt fighter bombers raced after the retreating enemy. However, the forward momentum finally halted due to the tyranny of logistics and stiffening resistance from a resilient Wehrmacht. In January 1945, the M4 Sherman tank became embroiled in a bitter controversy in the US media for its inability to match up with tanks of the German army during the Battle of the Bulge. When General Eisenhower eventually came to hear of the criticisms, he said, "Our men in general realize that the Sherman is not capable of standing up to a ding-dong head-to-fight with the Panther. Neither in gunpowder nor in armor is the present Sherman justified in undertaking such a contest. On the other hand, most of them realize that we have got a job of shipping tanks overseas and therefore do not want unwieldy monsters, that our tank has great reliability, good mobility, and that the gun in it has been vastly improved." The Sherman was used in all theatres of the war from North Africa to the Far East, and approximately 17,000 supplied to the UK under the Lend-Lease agreement, representing about 78% of total US production. The tanks in the film can be seen loaded at embarkation hired S1 adjacent to Mayflower Park at Southampton Western Docks on D-Day +2.